Commander Vreth-Kol had seen many things in his 43 cycles of military service across 6 star systems. He had watched planets burn. He had negotiated treaties with species that communicated entirely through the color of their skin. He had once, famously, stared down a Gorvakian war beast with nothing but a thermal blade and an attitude problem. None of that, absolutely none of it, had prepared him for Lieutenant Mara Osei. The human had been captured approximately 4 standard hours ago, during what Vreth-Kol's tactical officer, Sub-Commander Dravak, had confidently described as a routine boarding operation. Dravak was currently in the medical bay, reconsidering the definition of the word routine, after Mara had broken his secondary arm using nothing but her own elbow and what appeared to be a pencil. Yes. A pencil. Vreth-Kol stood outside the holding cell now, staring through the reinforced observation glass at the human female sitting cross-legged on the floor. She was humming. Actually humming. A low, rhythmic sound that his translation module could not identify as a known distress signal, war song, or prayer. It appeared to serve no tactical function whatsoever. It was, by every measurable standard, deeply unsettling. "She has been doing that for 2 hours, said Vreth-Kol, his security chief, in a voice that suggested a man questioning all of his life choices simultaneously. "Has she eaten?" She asked for something called coffee. Vreth-Kol paused. "We gave her a nutrient paste." She stared at it for 12 seconds, then set it aside with a smile. "Commander," the smile was worse than the stare. Vreth-Kol pressed his upper pair of hands together, a habit he had developed when dealing with situations that defied logical categorization. The human had been stripped of her standard-issue armor and weapons upon capture, which meant she currently sat in a plain gray undersuit, no boots, no equipment, no visible means of defense or threat. She had still, somehow, managed to be the most dangerous presence on the entire ship. He ordered the cell door opened. Mara looked up when he walked in. She did not stand. She did not salute. She tilted her head, the way a predator tilts its head when it is deciding whether something is interesting or merely food. "Commander," she said pleasantly, "you're taller in person. The intelligence files make you look shorter." Not an insult, just observational. Vreth-Kol had not told her his rank. He made a note of that. "Lieutenant Osei." He clasped both sets of hands behind his back and remained standing, because sitting would have felt, inexplicably, like a concession. "I want to understand what happened on this ship 4 hours ago." "I was detained," she said. "Incorrectly, I would argue. You put 6 soldiers on the floor. They were in my way. You broke Sub-Commander Dravak's arm." "Arms," she corrected cheerfully. "Plural. Both the secondary ones. The primary ones are fine. I was being considerate." Vreth-Kol stared at her for a long moment. "With a pencil." Mara reached behind her ear, and Vreth-Kol's hand flew to his weapon, because somehow, impossibly, there was still a pencil behind her ear. She held it up between 2 fingers, turning it slowly in the light like a jeweler displaying a rare gem. "You took everything," she said, "except this. Your soldiers saw it and logged it as, what was the exact phrasing, Commander?" Vreth-Kol remembered the scan report clearly. He wished he did not. "Non-threatening writing instrument." "Non-threatening," she repeated, and the grin that followed was the kind of grin that should come with a warning label. "See, that's the thing about humans. We have a very flexible relationship with the word threatening." Vreth-Kol stepped forward. "Commander, I must recommend we confiscate the—" "You can try," Mara said simply. Vreth-Kol stopped. He looked at the pencil. He looked at Mara. He looked at Vreth-Kol with the expression of a soldier who has suddenly remembered he has a family and a very comfortable retirement plan waiting for him. Vreth-Kol held up a hand. "Stand down, Vreth-Kol." He pulled the single chair in the room and sat down across from the human. Not because he wanted to. But because she was going to make him, one way or another, and he preferred to choose his own moments. "What are you doing on this ship, Lieutenant Osei?" he asked. She smiled again, slower this time. The humming had stopped. And somehow, that was worse. "Well," she said, "that depends entirely on whether you plan to answer my questions first." Outside the ship, in the cold and silent dark, 3 unmarked human vessels held position exactly 800 kilometers away, waiting, without a single active signal, without a single transmission. Waiting the way wolves wait. Vreth-Kol had interrogated warlords. He had sat across from species whose concept of deception was so advanced that his own military had developed entire counterintelligence divisions just to handle their lies. He had once spent 6 hours negotiating with a Pluvian diplomat who communicated exclusively through interpretive silence. None of them had ever made him feel like the one being questioned. Mara Osei had not moved from her cross-legged position on the floor. She had not raised her voice. She had not made a single physical threat since the pencil demonstration. And yet, Vreth-Kol's security chief was sweating, his tactical officer had been called twice from his station but had not responded, and the ambient temperature in the holding cell felt, for reasons that had nothing to do with the climate controls, significantly colder than it had been 20 minutes ago. "Your questions first," Vreth-Kol said finally, because he was a military commander, not a fool, and fools were the ones who let pride make tactical decisions. "Ask." Mara nodded once, like a professor acknowledging that a student had finally found the correct page. "Those 3 ships that followed yours out of the Kelvara corridor," she said, "the ones your crew flagged as debris drifters. How long ago did you stop believing they were debris drifters?" The silence that followed was the loudest silence Vreth-Kol had ever personally produced. Behind him, Grinned made a sound that was not quite a word and not quite a gasp but lived somewhere unfortunate between the two. "You know about those vessels," Vreth-Kol said. It was not a question. There was no point dressing it as one. "I know about those vessels," Mara confirmed pleasantly. "I know about the hull configuration, the engine suppression tech your Admiralty thinks is still classified, and I know that your senior navigation officer, Tefru, filed a quiet concern report about them approximately 90 minutes ago and then deleted it, because he did not want to be the one to tell you." She paused. "Tefru seems smart. I respect that kind of self-preservation instinct." Vreth-Kol stood up. "Not from anger. From the very specific physical need that comes when your brain requires your body to do something while it processes information that it was not structurally prepared to receive." "Who sent you?" he said. "Nobody sent me, Commander." She rolled the pencil between her fingers, end over end, with the easy rhythm of someone who had done it 10,000 times. "I volunteered." "For what purpose?" "To talk." She looked up at him with eyes that were calm in the way that deep water is calm, and deep water, Vreth-Kol had learned the hard way, has no bottom you can see from the surface. "Your fleet has been pushing into the Osei-Varda boundary for 11 weeks. 16 of those pushes crossed the line your council agreed to in the Tura Accords. We noticed. We said nothing. We watched." "You watched," he repeated. "Humans are very good at watching," she said. "We are patient in ways that tend to surprise people. We do not rattle our weapons when we are genuinely prepared to use them. We rattle them when we want you looking at our hands." She held up the pencil. "You looked at my hands." The weight of that statement settled over the room like a change in gravity. Vreth-Kol turned slowly toward the observation glass. Beyond it, through the ship, through the dark, those 3 vessels were still out there. Quiet. Still. 800 kilometers of patience wrapped in metal and silence. "What do the ships want?" he said quietly. "Nothing yet," Mara said. "That is entirely the point. They are not there to attack you, Commander. They are there to make sure you understand something important before this conversation ends." "And what is that?" She stood up then, finally, unfolding from the floor in one smooth motion, and she was not particularly tall by any standard of measurement, not broad, not physically imposing in any technical sense of the word, and yet the room became, without any logical justification, considerably smaller. "That we let you take me," she said. The pencil stopped rolling. "Your boarding team did not catch me." Her voice was even, unhurried, the voice of someone reading a statement that had been prepared well in advance. "I was standing in the corridor. I had 4 exits and a working comm line behind the secondary panel. I chose to step forward. I chose to come here. I broke Dravak's arms because he grabbed me before I could introduce myself properly, and I have certain reflexes that are, frankly, non-negotiable." Vreth-Kol stared at her. "You surrendered," he said. "Deliberately." "I requested a meeting," she corrected. "Your people just have a very dramatic intake process." The comm unit on Vreth-Kol's belt chimed. He already knew, before he answered it, what Tefru's voice was going to tell him. That the 3 vessels had not moved. That they had not powered weapons. That they had, in fact, just broadcast a single short-band signal on a frequency reserved, by ancient convention, exclusively for diplomatic contact. He answered it anyway. He listened. He lowered the comm unit. Mara was watching him with the patient expression of someone who had already read the last page of the book and was simply waiting for you to catch up. "They are requesting formal negotiations," Vreth-Kol said. "They are," she agreed. "And if I refuse?" She smiled, and it was not a cruel smile. It was not a triumphant smile. It was the smile of someone who genuinely, sincerely hoped it would not come to that, because the alternative was an enormous amount of paperwork for everyone involved. "Then I go back to humming," she said, "and we wait for you to change your mind." Vreth-Kol looked at the pencil in her hand one last time. Non-threatening writing instrument. That was what the scan had said. That was what 6 trained soldiers had logged and moved past without a second thought. He made a decision then, standing in that small cold room, that he would spend the rest of his career reminding every officer under his command of one absolute and irrefutable truth. It was never about the weapon. It was always, always, about who was holding it. "Tell your ships," he said, "that we accept." Mara Osei nodded once. She tucked the pencil back behind her ear. And somewhere in the dark, 3 silent vessels exhaled. Friends, if you are enjoying our videos and want to watch new and exciting sci-fi and HFY stories every day, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to turn on the bell icon so you never miss any of our latest uploads. Like the video and share it with your friends as well, so our community can continue to grow and bring you even more amazing content.